You want to set goals for 2025, and you're at the right place, because today in this episode we're going to dive into how and what goals you should be setting for 2025. As many of you know, if you're on the self-improvement and growth journey, you know how important setting goals really is, and what goals represent how you want to, live your life moving forward. One of the things that I've learned in 2024 about setting goals is keeping up with them every month or every quarter. For me personally, I go by quarters because it allows me to break down my goals into more manageable steps and allows me to actually achieve my goals in those manageable steps. When you're setting goals, of course, be realistic, but also create some type of strategy of how you plan on accomplishing those goals in that year. What are the things or habits or environments you need to be in? What are some rooms that you need to be in? What are some of the rooms that you need to exit, stage left? I know people say new year, new me in January, and they start on a goal and then unfortunately it fizzles out before spring. But in this video, I'm going to implement actual practical steps that allows you to maintain the consistency of your goals. Now, granted, of course, life will be lifing and people will be peopling, so things will happen, but I'm also going to give you a couple of tips of how you can manage that while dealing with the stressors, but still keeping up with the goals and with the task at hand. But before we get into it, before we set any goals, and I hope you have a sheet of paper or you can save this video for next or click watch later, let's reflect on 2024. I think that part is so, it's key. It's key to see what worked, what didn't work, and what needs improvement. Because that right there, my friend, will help you figure out what goals you even want to set in 2025. And the reason why it's also so important to reflect is because now we can actually figure out what actually helped us align with where we wanted to go moving forward for the end of this year. And what didn't really quite mesh too much. And what do I want to add in, or maybe something I saw or someone, a mentor or a coach or a therapist, recommended I try this, and I want to really implement it in the new year. Taking a step back and evaluating is a great way to push forward, because it's going to be aligning you with where it is that you want to be. It's kind of like a pathway. If you've ever been on a highway, if you've ever been on a highway before, many of us have. You ever see where they call it the fork in the road, where it kind of splits off into either another highway or an exit, right? So look at reflecting as that. Look at reflection of exactly that. You've been on the same pathway for so long, and now it's a time where it's okay, which way are we going to go? What are we going to do? How are we going to implement these things? And now you're breaking off to go on a completely different pathway. And another thing to look at, and I know some people would say it's negative to look at these things. Look at the things that did not work. Look at the things that didn't really help you. Look at the things that kind of hindered you, held you back, and evaluate what lessons you could take out of that. Because the thing is, a lot of us have the same repetitive pattern. We may not notice it because subconsciously we've been doing it for so long. But when you're taking a step back and you're moving into self-improvement, this is the moment. And when you're reflecting, this is the moment where you're now saying to yourself, okay, maybe that didn't work out, but what did I learn from it? What was my lesson out of that? And how can I make sure that I break this cycle and I don't have the same repetitive motion, same repetitive decisions over and over and over again? Now, with that also being said, you want to know the difference between goals and intentions. So goals are very specific, but intentions is where the motivation and the purpose comes up. So for example, I always say that you have to do things with intention, and that comes in with the discipline and the consistency as well. The goal is great. We set a goal, it's up there, we know what we're going to do, but what is the intention behind it? What is the motivation towards it? What is the purpose of it? What is the why? That is they would call the meat, the potatoes. That is where the most importance is, which is the journey. The goal is great. It looks great. It's shiny. It's exciting. But at the end of the day, what is the attention that you're going to take to reach said goal? What are the steps you're going to take to reach said goal? What is the sacrifices you're going to take to reach said goal? Now, before I talked about breaking down your steps, and this is something that I've really heavily implemented this year, and it's made a wide, huge, massive shift in my productivity and the things I have to get done. So for me, I'm going to break it down to you how I do it. And I hope that it helps you out, because at the end of the day, we can grow, but we don't have to be completely stressed the entire time. And the reason why I kind of came up with this idea was because I was finding myself unorganized because I had so much going on, and I was also finding myself very stressed out because I was unorganized, which leads to me saying pause all the time, or not all the time, but a vast majority of the time. So how I break it down is you create the set of goals that you want to set for the year. Now, it's important to keep that thing on hand, whether it's on your computer, on your phone, however it is, but just keep it on hand. Once you have the list of goals, now you're going to break them down. Now this is where the work kicks in. This is the intention part. What you want to do is you're going to break it down per month. What goals are you really going to start to pay attention to each month? Or off the list, what are you going to focus on each month? Then you're going to break it down per week, and then you're going to break it down each day. So by doing that, it takes the stress away. By doing that, it's still adding even if it's just 1% per day, it's still adding that 1% to the pot, and still adding that 1% to your goals every day. And by doing this, you're also being consistent, and it creates a sense of discipline of you staying on track. I break it down per quarter. So at the end of the 3 months, I'll look at, or 90 days, I'll look at what I've done, what I've accomplished, what I could have worked on a little bit more, and how could I put it on to the next 3 months? And then 3 months, what are my goals based off of the goals I made for that year? Boom, 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 boom. Okay, now this in the week, boom, 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 boom. And then from the week, each day, and just breaking it down allows me, it's in manageable steps. I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel stressed. And in fact, I feel more inspired to want to do it every day because it's in more of a easier set of steps for me to manage it. You see, because growth doesn't always have to be difficult. Growth can actually be put in manageable steps. So we don't have to be I'm at it and you're stressed out and no, you could actually break it down and still grow over time. Another thing that you could also do when it comes towards breaking down the steps is prioritize what the importance is. So let's say, for example, you have something that's very high importance that month. Now that should be your main focus for the first 2 weeks. Get it done, right? Maybe the first 3 weeks and the 4th week, you're just okay, I got it done. I can focus on other things. So it's good to figure out what is important, what needs to get done, and other things that is just kind of okay, I could do that maybe next month. Maybe not this month. Maybe I could do it next month. Push it to the next day, next month, or the following week, but always go by what is high priority at that time. Few tools that I use to keep track is honestly pen and paper. I have a book that I got from the dollar store that each week I write down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What are the things that I could break it down within that week? I also do have a calendar that reminds me so I can get on my phone, on my watch, things like that. But for some reason, me writing it out, it's more in my head. Okay, we have this going on this week. We have this session with this client this week. And at the end of the week, at the back of the sheet, I always review what did we learn, what didn't work, what could I have done better, what could I have improved on. And then once I realize it, rip it up, I throw it in the garbage. Next week, and then we try to implement the same things that we reflect on into the following week. There's other apps you can use. Personally, I like free, so I use the calendar on my computer, the calendar on my phone, and then I simply just write it down. And that's the easiest way I've been able to keep track of everything within this year. And a great way to also keep track is finding someone or a group to hold you accountable, whether you're working with even your therapist or a coach like myself, or a counselor or a mentor. Having these people in your life to hold you accountable makes a very, very big difference. I have 2 mentors that definitely keep me on my toes, and when we have our meetings, our check-ins, and I say, hey, this is what's going on, they're definitely there to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I also have my partner that keeps me on my toes, and I have a lot of friends that also keep me on my toes if I need them. You know what I mean? Sometimes you may not need an accountability partner. At the same time, it's okay to have them around because they will help you tremendously in terms of keeping yourself on track and holding you accountable. Ain't nothing better than somebody tell you ain't doing what you're not supposed to be doing and tell you, hey, you're off track. You ain't doing it. What are you doing? Some of the common challenges that a lot of us have is obviously staying consistent, because when life be life in and people be peopling. Life kind of just takes over, and then we kind of get in a little bit of a rut. It's happened to me before. Overwhelming feeling, and then procrastination kind of kicks in, right? A few ways that you could overcome that is, again, self-reflection. Evaluating where you are per week, per day. Okay, what did I do today? Could I have done something a little bit more with my time? Okay, I'm scrolling a little bit more than I have. Nothing more is a bigger reality check when you go into your settings and you see how many hours you spend on your phone. That was a huge reality check for me. Even as a content creator, I knew I wanted to reduce it a very large amount. Luckily, I've been able to do that. But at the same time, like, we get those modes where we're just constantly scrolling or looking at other things. And it's always good to even say to yourself, pause. What am I feeling? What am I filling this void with? What are some of the things I could be doing that I'm not doing, but I'm filling it with just scrolling? Because avoidance is us. A lot of times that we avoid because we have things we have to get done, but it's easier for us in our eyes to avoid it versus actually to face it. But in many cases, it's actually, like, in a way, like, it sucks more to stay in that rut versus to just say, all right, let me put this phone right down. Let me go do what I got to get done. In many cases, some people will say, like, I want to stay motivated. But for me, no, like, I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to inspire you. It's very important for you to stay inspired. And that's why I do feel like the little cues that you set out is important, even if it just means it's a cue of your family or your friends, or, you know, that one goal that you have of, I don't know, like a luxury car or that trip or living off grid. I don't know. But sometimes when you go back to that moment of why you even thought about that thing being so important to you, that you need to find something that inspires you the most. You need to find something, because motivation can only last for X amount of time. You can feel motivated. I can motivate you from the moon and back. But that's why I say I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to inspire you. I'm here to shift your mindset, to make you think and make you to start to like grow your mindset and think outside the box. I found in my late 20s, I felt like I was in a box and like the cover was on me and I didn't really know what was out there. I knew a little bit. I would peek my head sometimes, but I would close it back because it was safe. It felt safe in that box until I finally said, this is not worth it for me. And that's another way of you figuring out. That for me was how I got inspired. You could even listen to someone else's story and feel inspired. At the end of the day, when you think about your goals and you think about the intentions you're setting for said goals, what is going to inspire you? That's a great question to ask yourself. What is going to inspire you to keep going? Because there's going to be days when you don't want to do a damn thing. Working on whatever the goal is not even in your brain or in your thought process. So you actually have to ask yourself, what is going to inspire me to want me to continue to stay disciplined? Again, give yourself grace. Don't get me wrong. But after that moment where you're like, all right, let's get back to work, what is inspiring you to get back? It's a great question to ask yourself. And I say, create a visual example. So if there's something that you say, this is inspire me, and this is what's going to keep me inspired, print it out, put it on your phone, place it in a place where you could see it every day. So that no matter what, the days you're like, I don't want to do a damn thing, you look at that and you're like, all right, let's get to work. Lastly, adjust your goals to your circumstances. And when life is life in and people be people in and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and things are just hitting you too much, adjust your goals. By adjusting your goals, which is one of my pillars, is meeting yourself where you are at that moment. It doesn't mean you're stop working on the goal. It just means at that very moment, you're looking at the situation, you're reading your room, and you're saying, you know what? I need to adjust this. Because at the end of the day, you have to be your own safe space. By adjusting your goals, you're honoring yourself. You're saying, all right, I am here right now. I need to make a change, but I still want to keep working on my goal. Be afraid, don't feel shame, and don't feel any guilt for having to adjust your goals as you're going. Just to recap, in this episode, we talked about setting goals for 2025. I tapped in a couple of tips that you could definitely use starting today. I also tapped into a little bit of creating manageable steps to work towards your goals. And of course, we talked about being inspired and staying disciplined and consistent. And not to mention the last one that I just touched base on, which is where it comes towards you meeting yourself when you're at and adjusting when needed. Start setting your goals today. And in the comments below, What are some of the goals that you would like to set for 2025? Before you go, don't forget to click that subscribe button, because in our next video, we're going to be giving you a step-by-step of how to create your vision board for 2025. And as always, y'all, walk with peace, walk with love.